Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday so far. I am here with the man himself, Big Beat. Big Beat, how are you doing today?
Yeah, man, it's a different day, a St. Patrick's Day hangover for a lot of people, and now we go into the March Madness basketball. So we are looking at the slowdown in the markets that normally happen this time. But listen, Howard, some housing numbers come out. OECD yesterday, Fitch ratings in the United States lowered. How does that happen in less than 24 hours? We have downgrades of the United States back to back because
Yeah.
of the administration.
I do want to point out as you're talking about it, Fitch has downgraded the U.S. long-term currency from AAA to a AA plus. And that's a big deal because that affects how much interest rates, if we go to borrow or do things, it all matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the price of gold today, 36 now, continue to going higher. People are worried about the problems in Israel and Hamas. The problems in Ukraine with Trump and now Putin. The problems, and then you have Treasury Secretary Bissett saying everything is fine, nothing is wrong.
Reminds me of that meme with the dog in front of the house burning down, saying nothing to see here. Everything is
Something is
fine.
wrong here, right? Now, am I scared? The answer is still no. I'm not scared. Things are going to work themselves out. They always do. It's a bumpy ride right now. But you're seeing that through spot gold. You're seeing that with light sweet crude under $68 a barrel. It was getting a 68.50 earlier this morning, right back down. So no, I don't think that things are punchy glory and everything's happy and let's go talk to the world and make sure that everything's fine. It's not happening. There's problems, right?
And my thing is, was the goal of the current administration to prop up the rest of the world's markets? Because that's
They
what
did it.
I'm noticing is happening. I think it's the opposite of what he wants, right? But
Yeah.
we see the stock 600 up almost another percentage point, up 8% year to date. They've outperformed U.S. stocks for the first time in a decade as the euro rises to its highest since October, now at $1.09. Now, part of this I do want to bring out has a lot to do with Germany. We know they have the landmark vote in the Bundestag to increase their borrowing levels to allow them to invest more internally on defense and infrastructure. And that's going to happen here before the Fed comes out. But this is, and again, if I look China's markets are rocketing up where they're seeing strong retail data and they're throwing stimuluses at, their markets like they tend to do. So what are the answers here? What are we going to see from the Fed tomorrow?
Well, I think I just made a post on my own Twitter feed. Look, the Fed and the OECD, Fitch ratings, all of this, it's got to stop. All right. We've got to start getting back to the basics again. This reluctant Fed, all of this stuff is really starting to really kind of get to me a bit. I don't really personally understand what they're looking at that they need. Is it housing numbers? They're bad. Is it mortgage rates? They're not good. Is it retail sales? It's not good. Is it consumer confidence? It's not good. Shall I keep going?
Yeah, no, please don't.
Right. At some point I can just stop and say, hey, look, dear Fed, hello, what do you need to see in order to make this happen? Right.
Yeah.
What data points do you need to know? Do you need a Fox Business reporter who is now our Treasury Secretary to tell you this? No. You can see the data, right? And I think that's what's happening, right? The data is so behind the Fed, and it could get worse because of the cuts, maybe. I don't know. I hope not. But I will say this much. They've got a good opportunity coming up in tomorrow to maybe kind of change their tune a little bit and say, look, we understand the economy is not in perfect shape. We understand that. We're working on it. Okay. And let me help, right? Look, if you're cutting rates, it's because things aren't good.
Right.
I think Trump has a good point here, right? He's saying, let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's fix the problems. Let's get the tariffs on because we've been beaten up. Okay, that's great. If we're going to rip the Band-Aid off and we're going to fix the problems, let's get it done. Right.
Right. Do you think part of this was that he was expecting a much bigger fight on the shutdown and what's going there? And he sort of had his, maybe his focus on that. And then Schumer sort of threw him the curveball.
I think politics is getting very rancid in Washington these days, worse than even before. And of course, as you know, I did 16 years
Yeah.
penance in the city. I loved the fact that Schumer said, you know what, we got to work together. You're
So nice.
starting to see the left-wing nut jobs in the party now are all stepping up, screaming about the budget shutdown, the government moving forward, all these things. It's really showing the bad side of the Democrat Party. And I don't mind getting in politics. I'm in politics now. 2 degrees in it, right? So I can talk pretty good. Two administrations. I will say that this much. If the Democrats Party isn't careful, the Republicans may be in power for a long time because they are doing what they're. I always said this. You may not like Trump, but he's doing what he says he's going to do. Right?
Absolutely is. And that's a good point that you brought up, because I saw, we saw CNBC had their huge poll that they did, that they sort of judge they ask everything. And the only thing worse than the Democratic Party in that poll was Russia. was Putin's confidence level. The only thing lower. I mean, it wasn't even close. Wow. That blew me away personally, because I thought there would be some blowback because let's face it, eggs, chicken, and the stock market going down, all those things sort of working against the Republican Party still has them as the party that people are looking at for the answers,
Wow. That's
like I said, it was surprising there. Steve, we haven't talked about Bitcoin a little bit, sort of stuck in a consolidation zone. Bears are firmly in control right now, in my opinion. They've been unable to break out of that ascending triangle we've been in. But I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at now. We're seeing an accumulation out of the whales again, really starting to kick in. That's an important,
Talk to me, Howard, about this hacker in North Korea that is got this big short on.
It's done now. He made $7 million. So yeah, over the weekend it started. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. It really hit the headlines last night about 6 o'clock. There was a whale. At first, everybody was saying it's an insider. It's one of the big Bitcoin whale insiders. And it was proven by Zach XBT, who's one of the great sleuths out there to on-chain data, that this was either a North Korean hacker or another hacker. We can't be sure if it was Lazarus. And what they do is they make these huge bets with huge leverage on these DeFi platforms because
they have nothing to worry about.
They're laundering money. It's like it's drug dealers used to go to casinos, right?
They didn't even have to begin with, so they lose it. So what, right?
Yeah, and if they win, then that money has been laundered through. So this guy had a $500,000 bet to the downside. $500 million bet to the downside, using about $13 million as collateral. Made $6 million. He was close to liquidation. Had to add $5 million into his reserves to cover his margin, and they had him, and they were hunting him. There was Asian whales hunting him. I got a call from an OTC desk friend of mine down in Latin America who said, "Hey, you want to keep an eye on this right now because it's going crazy." There's a group of about 8 to 10 Asian whales that were out trying to hunt out his positions on the actual exchange to liquidate. They got it close. He didn't. I said he was going to capitulate at 85. He didn't. The guy's got big brash, because he was down millions.
It's not his money, right? He's just
and that's why, right? His thing, and he's had a few of these go the wrong way over the past couple of months because it's just meant to launder money. Back in the 80s, we know that casinos, before money laundering and KYC and everything was put in place there, drug dealers would go to Vegas. They'd go with $100,000 and they'd play black and red on the roulette wheel, and then they laundered their money, right? What happened? Right. I won $50,000 at the casino. That's why I have money, government.
Right.
So not too different there. It was really interesting to watch. It was a little old school for me. It was back in the days of sort of the Wild West of crypto that we don't really see as much anymore. But what I like is that we are seeing a pushback against Lazarus and the North Korean hackers. We saw it with the BigBeat hack that just happened. Mm-hmm. They've been unable to get most of that money out. And when I say most of it, like 90% of it hasn't been able to get moved. So what we're finding is that the entities within crypto are working together to stop these things, which is good to see. see. Steve, let's switch over a little bit to the charts here, show people
Yeah.
what's going on as we're getting ready to start. Mag 7, where we always like to start, right now, all in the red here. And it goes along with the fact that advanced declines negative 300. And I will say that's actually gotten worse over the last hour. We were in that same boat of up about 400 or 500 a little bit earlier here when I came on. Now moving the other way, and I know you were watching VIX earlier and commenting it was down below 20, now back above 21.35. So a little bit of volatility jumping back into the market here. Q's set to open up down about 60 basis points. The SPY down about 42. I did break down sort of the sectors here to see what we were seeing. You know, financial sectors down slightly here overnight, and on the morning ETFs pre-market so far. Technology down almost 0.5%. So that's been where most of the loss is, matches up with the Mag 7 and also what I've been seeing here when I looked at the chip sector in general. Most of them in the red outside of ASML. Steve, let's talk a little bit about NVIDIA. You and I both long in NVIDIA, both big fans. You know, we know that they have going on today. They start their GTC conference, and there's a bunch of stuff going on with this GTC conference that I'm interested about. The first being the Rubin chip. It's the upcoming new AI chip. I know you're excited about it because it's the type of things we need here at Quasar Markets to run our back-end AI that we have there. Any concerns with this today, or do you think he gets the market going? I mean, he's been basically the guy lately that has gotten the market moving, Jensen.
Yeah, I mean, Vera Rubin is the name of the chipset. Vera is, of course, the world famous astronomer, and that's why they're, you know, this. I think that's kind of a cool chip. To me, look, Blackwell Ultra. If you think about it from a perspective of your phone, your cell phone, right? You've got your iPhone, you've got your Android, but what kind of phone do you have? You have a Samsung GS 23, 24, and you have a 24 Plus, then 24. But you have the 24 Ultra. Well, that's what the Rubin chip is. The Rubin chip is now the Ultra chip. They're going this direction because they want a much better. The problem is right now that AI is hitting up the servers at a very hard clip, right? What they're wanting to do is take some of that pressure off. If you're a big firm, put it on your side a lot better, right? Where you run the Rubin chip on your servers
Locally, right? You're saying as opposed to needing the cloud, and that you'll be able to do more of the computing on a local level.
Well, local level for your data center, right?
Right.
So instead of it being your data center being Amazon or Google Cloud, they're saying that your servers, your blades, right? Sorry, the tech part of me is coming out now. Your blade server will have its own Rubin chip on it, so you'll have your own AI server, and I think that's a much better situation than putting all of that onto ChatGPT or Perplexity, and they can keep prices down. We can manage it a little bit more, and you're going to see that happen because why? Because companies want their AI much faster, right? They're not going to have to rely on ChatGPT all the time. They don't have to rely on Amazon and their AI or Gemini or whatever, Copilot, Microsoft. If they're developing their own AI, they can layer that AI, the Rubin chipset, right onto their own server blades, and it's a much faster situation. Why? Because companies like CRM or Salesforce and things like that will say, okay, you know what? I've got all this data. I don't want to be dependent on somebody else, and I don't want my data to get outside of my servers. Right? I have think of the financial world. We don't want banks giving out their financial data. So that's why I think Rubin is a much bigger deal than I think people are letting on and not really understanding the process here. Look, NVIDIA at 118 is silly. It's now below Apple, and Apple's, let's hope and pray, and I don't believe in hope and prayer in the financial world, but I believe both in the real world. But when it comes down to it, Apple's not really doing the thing they need to do, right, in order to move the chip sector forward, right? M4, M5, okay, great. NVIDIA is saying, look, I'll take the process. I'll go the next step with this, right? I'm going to bring this to another level. And when they do that, they're saying, okay, I'm not only going to give the retailer their chipset to have their AI, the new RTX 5070 or 5090, which I really can't wait to get one, but I can't. They're sold out. It tells you everything about NVIDIA. But then, now the companies that are supplying the AI, the companies that are supplying the data, the companies that are the ones doing your data servers in the back now need to have AI. Is quantum computing dying? Is AI dying? No, it's speeding up. That's what we've been saying.
Well, and like you just said, I just want to break it down because sometimes with your technical background, you're a little bit above our viewers. What Steve is saying is what you're going to see is companies that are going to run their own AI on top of these large language models so that they're examining their own data. They're not sharing it with Chat GPT and that everybody else gets to look at their data. But if I'm, Best Buy, all of my Best Buy information and data that I want to use to mine my own data to get better information, to automate things, and to have generative AI will all be done learning from its own systems and not from outside systems. And that means that pretty much everybody runs an AI themselves, every major company. I don't want to say like it's, I won't be running AI. Steve probably will, but I won't there. So I do, I just wanted to point that out. I also want to point out that he's already gone on the offensive versus, this DeepSeek and all that, and made it clear that it doesn't matter about how many you need because he knows how many everybody needs. He's not even concerned, but it's about that you're going to need faster and faster token generation. And that's what they're providing. Their AI models evolve from basic response to self-reasoning. What that's going to do is increase the need, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. We're 15 minutes from the start here, Steve. Q's still in the negative right now, down about 55 basis points, but it is moving slightly to the north side right now. Seems to have bottomed out a little bit here in that 480 area, 479, bounced down to now moving back up slightly. SPY a little bit closer to neutral here, only down 41 basis points, and looks like it wants to challenge VWAP right off the opening. So that's a good thing to keep an eye on here. Did have a little bit more news or analyst updates across the Mag 7. Again, as anyone that's been listening here knows, I believe the Mag 7 has entered value zone personally, that I would be looking, on a longer term basis. I am not scared. As Steve said, I am bullish on my long-term, view of these, especially at the, valuations we have. We see Amazon just got an upgrade to 290 from 280 here, trading at 195. That came through, overnight. We also see that Meta, another one here, just got a 775 move, price analyst there, and their price target average is 762.73. I point that out when they're trading at 604. Netflix also got an increase upgrade. They got an $1,100, the first $1,100 I've seen, Steve, on Netflix here from Moffett-Nathanson. And again, trading at 950. So again, it seems like the analysts are in the same boat that I have been in. Steve's been bullish as it is. But as everyone knows here, I've been talking the last few days about the fact that I am, looking at value in some of the best in class. JP Morgan being another example of that for me personally. I was looking at banks. They're down another 23 basis points here, but at 233.93, again, starts to be places where I want to get involved with something like JP Morgan. Because I will tell you, if there's a recession, the company that tends to bail everybody out, there's two, right? Is you want to have some Berkshire Hathaway, you want to have some JP Morgan, because they're the ones that bail out other companies and other industries when things hit the fan, so to speak.
And I wanted to bring up a good point this morning, and I know we have about 10 minutes here now to the open. That's a good point. You and I have been talking about retail sales over the last few days, and we've been talking about, and in the last few months, I have been getting very clear about my thoughts about the restaurant business and about weight loss drugs. And I want to show a screen. I'm going to share my screen here, Howard. Hopefully you all can see this screen here. This is retail sales, food service, and drinking places. These are bars and restaurants. And you'll notice that back in this, usually in the summer, usually is not a good time for sales of bars and restaurants. People are out at the beach. They're out there. Why? Because normally it's right around Christmas time. They're out at the restaurants. They're out doing their thing. But last summer, you saw right what I was talking about, the going down, right? But this is a big drop over the last few months. And I think that the last few months is due to the weight loss drugs. You really saw the spend and consumer confidence. You saw consumer confidence starting to wane. Right after the election, going into the election, right, going up into the election, and then now the consumer confidence has now dropped. So for me, I think it's a double whammy for the restaurant and bar business, right? That Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, those drugs, on top of consumer confidence, really hit the market there. And I don't think there's any change, to be honest with you. I think it's going to get worse over the next few months, especially if we don't get this. Unfortunately, this rate cut. I don't think we will, unfortunately, but it'll get worse, and I think businesses are gonna really suffer over the next few months.
We'll see it this week. You'll be able to see it. March Madness usually starts the rebirth. You just showed that chart. February is always a weak month for restaurants in general, outside of Valentine's Day. Not a lot that draws people out.
Right.
And then you don't turn around really till this week when March Madness, but then it's go time because spring training and baseball, spring training ends, baseball starts right after March Madness, and we usually see that burst into spring break again, where restaurants get a nice burst, especially down by you in Florida. So we'll be able to judge that pretty quickly here. As you mentioned, we are 10 minutes from the start here. Let me share back my screen.
And I think people need to understand that gold is a good example of that, right? Gold at 30.30 right now with all the problems happening on. People are still putting some of that cash to work in metals. That's been a long time since that's happened. I mean, a real long time.
I will say that's the only thing that has me a little bit on edge, Steve, and not as bullish as I was maybe, a few days ago, is that we weren't seeing last week a pickup in that gold, right? It was stuck under that 3,000, couldn't get through it. Didn't seem to be much of an appetite to flee to safety, so to speak. And we are seeing a little bit more of that this week, so keep an eye there. Do want to point out some of the pre-market winners. There aren't a ton of them, and almost all of them are overseas again. Kingsoft Cloud Holdings was up the most this morning, up 5.77% after being up 4.16%, moving up after hours yesterday. Again, Chinese name when it comes to cloud and data processing. Li Auto, as I mentioned, and I do recommend anyone who is a car buff, take a look at what Li is producing. They are making really luxury cars in China that I did not know were that nice until I looked into it. Another one not surprising here, Steve, we haven't really mentioned much about the Middle East, both the issue with the Houthis and the rebirth of the war in Gaza, but not unexpected. Elbit, which is ESLT, is an Israeli aerospace and defense company. One of the big winners, up 5.9% here today.
Yep.
Laggards was across the board, so I didn't really fill that out because the laggards were there. Mag 7, like I said, so far, Tesla, big loser again, down another 4% here, Steve. We know this is a huge indication on the thoughts of the CEO, but I really do believe for the first time, it's also seeing what is being produced overseas and all of this news coming out of China. It wasn't just one company, right? We saw BYD came out and announced yesterday. You talked about it. You broke it here on the news that they have a fast charger, 400 kilometers in 5 minutes. How long does it take to charge yours currently to do, that's the equivalent of 700 miles. What's that, overnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have one, so I don't have a good, I don't have a good gauge for that. So I didn't know, what it was there. And as Steve's putting it there, Israeli military recently attacking South Syria. There was talk, I don't know if it's been confirmed, that Iran's, basically their number one warship was sunk earlier by Israelis. So we'll see if that's the case in the Red Sea. But that's going to keep things a little bit on edge today also. But again, Tesla here, at 227 now. Looks to me like it's going to fall all the way to that 200 level. 202 is where I put out my target for people that remember. About a week and a half ago, we started talking about that number.
The VIX jumpy here a little bit. So, I mean, to me, people are starting to get back to it again a little bit. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I think that we've had a nice little run over the last few weeks or a few days here and in the week. I'm not really worried about this. I'm still.
I think there'll be some profit taking going into FOMC. I think people want to see what Powell has to say. if he's got the purple tie on, we'll be okay. If he doesn't, we better run for the hills. And for those that don't know, Steve has a philosophy that when Powell wears the purple tie, markets go up.
It's back in the day, people asked that question all the time. He used to wear a red or blue. That's not just him. That was almost every member of the Fed coming out
of the Fed, right?
And which hand does he have the briefcase in? Look, everybody's got thinks they have a telltale sign on the Fed governors in general, but Fed chair in this case. I think he's very, very worried about tariffs, and he's very worried about this administration's policies. It's hard to govern the Fed when you don't know what the policy is, or when you don't know when a tariff is going on. They're having a hard time, and I think it's going to get worse. I'm hearing reports now that the U.S. to try to attach export controls to trade deals, as according to Commerce Secretary Lutnick now.
Well, I do want to point out, and other sort of bad news, not that I care, I never shopped there, I'm way over than 21, but Forever 21 has announced they are closing all of their stores. And again, you've talked about this, right? It's all about the e-commerce, the e-retailers are winning, and this is just another case of that. They lost over $400 million in 3 years and owe about $1.58 billion in money to people. So we'll see there. I did mention, I do got a couple of headlines here. XPeng, they did have 52% delivery surge, and they're showing a 14.4% gross margin. Again, they're selling cars there, and they're selling them in mass. It was over 260, I want to say 360, thousand cars that they produced. That's a big number. They're moving into that.
I mean, it's going to hurt when Tesla's 93%. There's a new poll came out in Germany. 93% of people in Germany said that they are not buying a Tesla car. You see that all over Europe now. You're seeing it now in China. So guess what? Those people are not going to buy Teslas. They're going to buy something else.
An EV car, and what I think is important to realize is here in the U.S. under the current administration, where we've pulled back from those, forcing those Ford and GM to do it, they've taken advantage to sort of move away from EV. And in Europe, they're going to lose market share for sure. Another upgrade I saw, Steve, the rich keep buying. Ralph Lauren shares gained 3.2 after a nice upgrade from Goldman Sachs here. One of my favorite brands personally. I have always been a fan of their clothes.
I bought a Ralph Lauren shirt over the weekend, right?
I think they last forever. I go to their shops all the time. They're in all those Tangiers we talked about yesterday, and all of those outlet stores. I love it. Big move up here, 3.15% here. I was looking at it. I still think that this is an interesting spot for, if you look at the daily chart here for Ralph Lauren, you can see it's got a nice little support zone. It didn't fill. I would have liked to see it fill all the way to the gap here.
Islamic Jihad sources are now saying that the group's spokesperson, Abu Hamza, has been killed in the Israeli strike in Gaza. So the mouthpiece of the mouthpiece. Yeah. Oh, okay. So he has been killed now. So I'm posting that now here. The spokesperson for Hamas has now been killed here. So this is just came out across the wires here now.
Yeah. I mean, my personal opinion is you're going to see scorched earth if Trump gave the go ahead to basically do it, which it does seem like is the case based on our attacks.
Why are they attacking? You've got the Houthis attacking our ships. It's like the mouse that roared here. I don't understand why we saw the Houthis attacking in Yemen, attacking a carrier, a strike carrier group.
It makes no sense. It's basically I don't get it. I mean, they're just trying to draw us into war is what I can get, but I don't know why that would be.
Well, I mean, you think about it from the perspective of just that area, right? You've got Syria, Israel. I get this fighting's been going on for thousands of years,
generations.
Okay. Right? Okay, the whole area, right? So is this just par for course now that this is going to happen all the time? Look, if that's the case, then buy the VIX and don't stop buying the VIX.
And it's up 5% here this morning. I mean, that's what's doing it. Listen,
gold's another new high right now, 30.36.
That's what I mean. Is that's what I saw was the difference today than what I'd seen last week, was that there is a little bit of a flight to safety here. And it's not surprising, for every good turn that we get, that, Trump's going to talk to Putin, and hopefully we can get moving in the Ukraine and get that maybe into a ceasefire. On the other end, it looks like the Middle East is ready to go back into war, and we haven't even talked about Taiwan
We
and
are
China.
open here now, and look, to me, I'm not really seeing much of a move here. It's kind of quiet.
Negative 650 advanced decline. I'm going to bring it back into our charts here. Advanced decline down 23.93. You can see Q's jump down almost a full percentage point here at 83 basis points. Let's see what we get here in the first 20 minutes. As we know, the algorithms are going to fight it out versus the 0 DTE folks. I let them play. I wait and see which way it goes here. We'll say Apple up on that, maybe that GS upgrade here. So we do see also another one. I've seen Evercore also just upgraded them here in the last few minutes. So they're up a little bit here. Apple, all the rest of the Mag 7 to the downside. As I look at the Spider Selects as they open here, looks like energy is up slightly, which is, again, what we expect in times of turmoil and threat of war. Seeing the material select sector up also, and then healthcare up slightly. On the downside, technology, consumer discretionary, utilities. Those are the big ones that are down.
37 now. We're still pushing higher on gold. This is getting, I still think we'll go 3,500. I don't see anything stopping it.
Yep, I can't argue with you there. Again, it just seems a flight to safety for sure. VIX now at 2156. So again, it's been ticking up here as we open, in a pretty steady upswing. So,
but we've had a good run over the last few days. So no, prop taking can't be too bad here, right? The Dow being down 100 points or the Nasdaq being down 160. I mean, it's not major numbers here that are getting just absolutely obliterated here. So I don't see. Let's see where I get it. Advanced decline line minus 2,500, but
like I said, I want to see where it falls in about 20 minutes. This is not unusual for a start. We've seen some of these be then a melt up day, start right after like 10, that 950 area, and then all of a sudden we just slowly melt our way up. I don't see anything that wouldn't lead to that so far. I do think the threat of the war in the Middle East does have things. I do want to see what is LMT and some of these other ones doing here this morning. That might give us a little bit more of an insight too to what traders are thinking. So Lockheed Martin down, you would think times of war they would be looking up. So not seeing that. Raytheon's RTX, is that correct?
Man, Tesla is still getting slaughtered here. Whew. 229 now down another 3.5%. So I mean, it could get below 220.
I think it's going to 200.
You saw this morning
not today, but I think it's going to 202.
RBC just trimmed their cost to 320 by $120. So my goodness, I mean, this isn't getting more downgrades than the United States government's getting downgrades.
Yeah, because I think, again, we've talked about this, the amount of extrinsic value that was placed on Tesla based upon the belief in Musk, which is now faded, Wait,
are you saying fade the Musk now? You said you used to say don't.
I used to say never fade the Musk. I'm fading the hell out of him. I've been calling for this since 475, if you remember. I was very early on the Tesla. It was moving down here all the way in. When it broke below this 420, I called it out on Prosper's show, Prosper Trading Academies, to look for the drop all the way down to this 300 level, and it came pretty quickly. So I've been fading the Musk personally. Bitcoin holding above 82 here, Steve. I will tell you, anything below 82,000 today will push us right down to 80. There is a pretty big liquidation floor below us here.
Silver just dumped 20 cents there, 34.20 to 34 in like less than just a minute there.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. Q's now down almost a full percentage point here. We do see oil kicking up a little bit here, 67.85, but sort of in that no man's zone still. Steve, what I would say too is, these rates are getting a little sticky again, aren't they? They're moving up. We hit a low of 44.12 here, back beginning of the month. We're pushing back up 4.318. So again, that relief we were hoping would come for some of these mortgages and stuff doesn't look like it's coming quick enough. Again, we need the Fed to make the right decision here.
I mean, I don't know. Should I beat the table? Should I go to DC?
You did. You already did. And I don't mean to add on to it, but it's just, it just shows in the same places, right? When we look at, you look at the same figures that they are looking at, why they're not getting to the same decision that, everybody else should. Stop looking in the rearview mirror to drive your car. Let's look forward.
I am reading an article right now that Nintendo is set to reveal their new Switch 2.
That should be interesting. I'm interested. I know you're
AI upscaling technology in the Switch. I mean, there is to improve graphics, is to improve the speed of it. Now enhancing visuals from 540p to 1080p or full HD. I like this move here in Nintendo.
Yeah, my generation is not a Switch generation. I'm a little too old for that, but my nephew doesn't go anywhere without his Switch.
Yeah, and the difference with Switch means that you can go from your handheld to your phone to your TV.
On the go.
Yeah,
everything on the go, designed to work.
We just broke the 82,000 on Bitcoin there. VIX is
that's what I said. It's it looked to me like we had downside here. I put it out earlier in our message, looking for a drop here towards 78 or so before we start to make a move to the upside, in my opinion.
GDX, which is the miners, if you pull up the ETF GDX, just type it in.
Gold miners,
the miners are actually beating gold itself, right? I mean,
it has been. Mark Petrino pointed that out on our show recently, that gold miners were up. It was a better play for almost a 3-to-1 move to the upside, is what he had noticed.
Right.
And I will mention again, Mark is on every Friday at 10:30 here on Quasar Markets. Steve, I do want to point out to everybody, you need to get in front of your computers tomorrow. We have a huge day coming on at 10 o'clock. We've got still, we're on at 9 o'clock every day. We've got at 10 o'clock, Stephen Flanagan, 40-year veteran of the forex market, used to lead JP Morgan's electronic trading desk. And then we have Peter Thomas following up there at 10:30. The man, when it comes to advising sovereign and countries on buying metals, he'll be in. And then we have your man Kirk in right after that. So we've got a big day of folks coming in tomorrow. So make sure you're tuning in early. Still negative on this tick, man. It's not going in the right direction, down 546. The advanced decline looks like it wants to top out here about 3,000. So not too bad there. I don't like seeing the VIX climb up this fast, 2181 here.
I mean, to me, this is above 0 DTEs. There's nothing here that I'm too concerned about. The nervousness in the market, we've been talking about it all, but these are nothing new. Nothing has been added to the nervousness. It's just people trying to find their patterns of, okay, now we've had a nice run, let's just sell off. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. People should take profits. I understand that. But there's really nothing fundamentally that's changed over the last few days. Because a Houthi attacked a carrier, that ain't happening. I mean, we're going to wipe that country off the map to keep that up. We're not.
And it's nothing to our companies. You
right.
know what I mean? Is if anything, again, we should see a move up. Hey, another one I have to mention. I don't have a headline on, but one of the things that I was beating the table on, as over the last 6 months, is that Berkshire Hathaway, I felt, would be putting more money into those Japanese trading houses. And what headline did I see come across?
They did. Yep, sure did. Yep.
Is right here, bringing it, is Japan trading house stocks rise sharply after Berkshire. And I will point out, first ones mentioned are the ones that I have been showing every morning here on our watch list and pointing out that they are banks overseas, right? MUFG
I was
right
just
here,
in
up
Japan.
another
I can tell you that
1.5.
I can tell you that the world of trading is exploding over there. So they're absolutely right.
And again, we've talked about this. These houses aren't just trading houses like we're used to.
Right.
They are the equivalent of what a Berkshire does. They're the equivalent of what a KKR does, an Apollo.
That's right.
They are private equity. They are the private funds. And just look at this. Again, I've been calling for this since October when when it was trading at $14. I brought up SMFG is another one there that's in that Sumomoto. Again, look at that move up. It was trading at
Silver
that
still
time in the
dumping here.
$12 to 16. But, again, you knew that Warren wasn't putting money into the U.S. markets. Where does he tend to go? He's always been alpha in Japan, right?
Yeah. This the dumping is indiscriminate. It's not just stocks; it's everything, right? It's Bitcoin. It's now oil.
People need money. I mean, I just think people need money, Steve. I do think,
right.
That trend you showed in restaurants, I meant to mention as you were coming off of that, was it mirrors what we've heard from retail also, right? It was a great holiday season. People spent money. Jamin Dimon was warning of it, saying, hey, consumer credit card debt is going through the roof here. People are spending too much money during the holidays. And I think that's what happened. People overspent, and now they're feeling that pain.
I also think there might be a little bit of an issue with tax season coming up too, right? Maybe some tax selling going into this too as well. So
we always see that this time of year. Yep. I think people are doing it earlier. They're getting ahead of it. I know that for the first time in my life, I'm going to have it done before April 14th because I'm going next week. So for me, I usually take the last appointment my guy has available because I am a procrastinator when it comes to that. I want to give the government their money the last day. I'm just kidding. I usually get money back because I'm one of those guys that just says, take it and give it back to me at the end of the year.
There's a little bit of buying here in silver. I like this dollar going back up now, 103.59. You heard yesterday from our friend Scott Bauer talking about that, right? We're hearing reports that Israel will send officials to the U.S. to discuss the fight against Hamas. So there might be some push up to the more troops, maybe boots on the ground for the U.S. might be the over the top here a little bit. So let's see what Trump has to say about that.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. I don't know. Yes, the dollar, as you said, regained the 103.40 mark. Now back up at 103.60, but still not showing much strength yet. We haven't seen the return of the king dollar at all. Bitcoin continuing to slide here at 81,659 here. So again, pretty quick sell off there. We saw some liquidations already hit. Looks like we might have some short covering happening right now, so maybe push back up here based upon that way that chart looks on the minute. We do see Qs now down 1.26%, so we're seeing tech continuing to see the sell-off, and the big losers so far, NVIDIA down 3%, Tesla down 5.5% right now, Steve. Amazon down 2.24, Meta down 2.4. Wow, Mag 7 just not looking so magnificent these days. See what happens with the early morning risers again. That war in Israel, we talked about ESLT, Elbit Systems before the open here, rocketing up 10.86% here. They will be a big beneficiary. They produce a lot of the drones that Israel uses, and they are an Israeli tech defense contractor. Seen some sell-off across the others, though. Both Lee and King Cloud moving to the downside here since the open. Banks getting a little bit of love here, so we are seeing the financial sector get a little bit of love here. Seems to be the one sector that is moving to the upside. Chips getting hit the hardest probably so far in what I've been looking at. Restaurants, like you talked about, all moving pretty much to the downside. McDonald's at a slight win, but most of the others. Brinker, which is Eat, down 3.19% here this morning. Wingstop down 2.5% here. Kava down 1.64%. Chipotle down 1.77%. So Sweet Green. So across the board, whether they're healthy or not healthy companies, all of them moving down on the news that less and less money being spent in restaurants. Healthcare also seeing a little bit of love here today. UNH up about 66 basis points. Elevance up about a percentage point. The same with Cigna. So seeing a little bit of love here. UHS, Universal Health Services, actually up 1.49%. And still another sector that's sort of a mixed bag there. Steve, I think there's going to be a little bit of blowback here out of Congress. Did you see? I saw a lot of talk that U.S. aluminum producers have been raising their prices to be in line with the tariff-affected Canadian and Chinese imports. Wasn't the idea of these tariffs that U.S. companies would be where we turn because they would be better priced and positioned better for the U.S. consumer? Isn't that the idea?
Because the last time in world history, not just U.S. history, world history, that tariffs worked was
Never.
never. I don't really think people understand this, right? If I'm going to tariff you, Howard, because I want your product, and you're going to tariff me, and I'm going to tariff you, eventually what's going to happen is inflation is going to stay high internally, right? Because we're just going to keep pushing it up. And guess who hurts? The consumer. And we're seeing that now. They're not going to McDonald's. Now they're not going out to eat to the restaurants. Now they're not having fun. They're not. This is what happens in a tariff war. It doesn't work. It never has worked. It's always failed. And the last big one that we did like this ended up in a depression. I don't understand this, right? And on top of that, you've got a Fed not wanting to cut rates. It's literally a triple whammy. And I think that's why people are getting upset and not nervous about well, I didn't vote for this, or I voted for something else, or this wasn't what I thought was going to happen. This is exactly what was going to happen. I mean, I screamed about this last summer, right? That we don't want a tariff war. We want something different. We want cool, level heads discussing trade. Figure it out. Throwing just willy-nilly, I'm going to raise your tariff 200% on your wine because it's champagne, because it's European. That's just, I'm sorry, President. You're being silly, right? And the vice versa. Now you got countries overseas that are doing the exact same thing to us. It's being silly. Stop the nonsense, right? Get back to basics. Make a better product. You want to lead? Great. We're doing that with AI chipsets, right? You've got a company like NVIDIA that is producing. You've got a company like Apple that people want, Apple phones around the world. Make a better product. Get back to manufacturing. Focus on that. And I think you'll see that, right? Industrial production down again, right? I mean, the numbers this morning were up a little bit, but not enough to produce. You got to get back to manufacturing. And this is not the way we should be going. It's really the wrong way. And we have we have an inept administration in all kinds of ways, right? But I like the ideas. I do like the ideas. Let's clean up the government. Let's do these things. But it's not working. It's not going to work. It's never worked in no country, any time, in any place in history. It worked, right? It may
right.
That's
the key part that people need to realize is that, hey, Steve, I got one that I actually like here. I don't like the airline, but I like what they're doing. Frontier is going after Southwest.
We've been talking about it.
I've never really been a favorite. If I remember, they're like ULCC or something. They got a weird. Yeah, there it is. Wow, look at that. I actually picked that one out. If you asked me to do that 10 more times, I'd never get it right.
And we talked about that, right? We're talking about these small carriers that they get it right. The previous administration made a huge mistake when they said no M&A, right? No, because of their word. Well, Spirit Airlines is now owned by Ken Griffin, right? Citadel. Now got other things going on. You just made the world a worse place, right? This is why we can't have good things. It's just I don't really understand the previous administration. I just don't really
I'll tell you what, Frontier, I haven't looked at this chart in forever. It's in a decent zone of consolidation here. You can see you got a liquidity zone here that'll sort of map out for us.
VIX now up 8% here on the day as we're about to lose 81,000 now on Bitcoin.
Yeah, like I said, look for 78 today. If we see the down frame, we're in a pretty good liquidity zone here. A nice break above 630 here would be very bullish on ULCC again, which is Frontier Airlines. So could be an interesting one to keep an eye on here. I do like it because I think that people will switch. I think that people really bought Southwest because of those baggage. I think this was a huge mistake by them. I know from my family that was the case. My wife has to have 2 bags everywhere she travels.
They're tired of spending too much money. They're tired of it. You're seeing that, right? Consumer spending is cutting back. You're not seeing travel that much anymore. We saw that this revenge travel after COVID. We saw all this, and now we're not seeing it because people are nervous. Look, I'm still not quite completely nervous. I'm not nervous at all, actually. I think things are going to go back up, but we need true governance. We need leadership. This country and around the world is starving for true leadership, and we're not seeing that. And
I think the best way to term it too is we had this nice run, but let's face it, the confidence level and, sentiment levels are low. So, the first sign of weakness in the run, got bought up pretty damn quick. Got sold off pretty damn quick.
81,351 now on Bitcoin here. We're still slipping a little bit, but I think this might be the end of it as we go into the 10 o'clock hour. I'm just there you go. The street. Apple CEO Cook exposes critical logical flaw in tariff policy. I mean, you're already seeing major companies coming out and saying, stop the nonsense here. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we definitely need to see. That needs to be the idea. So we do need, and we need some common sense to come out of the people that I thought would have a little bit of common sense, right? Lutnick, Passant, these guys need to, they're good businessmen. They know that this is bad for the economy.
I mean, the Commerce Secretary is I don't know what he's thinking here. This is a guy who runs a brokerage firm, right? He knows exactly what's good for the economy. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. We don't be sitting on the sidelines anymore, right? And banging the tables and hoping for the best, because it's just not going to happen here. We need to see next level leadership here, and we're not seeing it right now, and it's really bad. But in saying that, things aren't that bad actually. But we
want to point out Baidu with a big jump up here today, 2.25% after a nice 6-7% move up yesterday on the announcement of their new AI model being released. So again, a lot of stuff coming out of China here, out of their tech industry. So we need NVIDIA to bounce back today. We need to see NVIDIA's, GTC conference get the needle moving here, because, a lot of the talk is moving overseas right now. FedEx has earnings tomorrow, up in advance of those earnings here, up about 32 basis points here. One I'm interested, I know you like a lot as a channel check to see what's going on in the economy. So we'll be keeping a close eye on them. Right now, just above that support line here that we were looking at 22.44. So we'll keep an eye there again. Mag 7 is all in the red now. Biggest loser, Tesla, down 5.7% here. Amazon and Google down 2.55. It also looks like nobody wants these companies to spend any money, right? Shouldn't Google have been a good news today that they're buying, a great cloud providing service company in Wiz that does great job, and instead they're down 2.6 on that news? Do you think they overspent for it? Is that what everyone's thinking?
Hearing reports now, sorry about this, just came in, that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has promoted the Hunter Biden IRS whistleblowers, will now be the IRS head now. Leadership roles at Treasury. So seeing that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that one I don't know.
Still seeing some selling coming on here. Gold 30.36 again, and silver back to 34.20. People just don't feel comfortable right now. They're nervous.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway.
I'm not nervous, Howard. I just feel like we need to have leadership. Sorry.
I will point out that most of these are at lows of the day. So most of the Mag 7 still dropping down. The advanced decline continuing to fall now, 3,400, and tick still negative pretty much every single tick that we've had since the open. So not moving there. And VIX is now back above 22 here. So moving the wrong way. Bitcoin did regain that 81,350 level. So holding up so far there, but not looking strong at all. What is looking strong, gold 30.35. Is that a new all-time high again here this morning?
Yes, it is.
Yep,
Well,
30.38 hit an all-time high here again this morning. Like you said, I think this thing's going right to 31 pretty quickly.
We're hearing reports now that the auto industry and tech groups are now urging Trump administration to speed deployment of self-driving cars, according to a letter to the president now. I agree with that, right? I think you're going to start to see that faster than ever now. Because you just said this morning, right? Li Auto, right?
Yeah, China's. Otherwise, you're just falling behind.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I think that the cooler heads, and I hate to say the cooler heads are the companies, because the companies are caring about their own companies, right? And profit. But we need to see that. So, yeah, Wow.
Man, tech getting hit hard again here. Palantir down 5% here today. So it's given back the gains of the last 2 days here.
I hear reports now that President Putin has now concluded their closed door meeting with business now. So let's see what comes out of that. Hopefully we'll see a much better Putin coming out. Maybe that
also seeing Italy's PM Meloni. The EU should find a deal with the US to avoid a tariff war. I'm not sure it's good to respond to US tariffs with the EU tariffs. So the first sort of sign of common sense coming in here.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, with everything we're saying now is coming into the headlines to say, I don't know, maybe we got maybe my crystal ball of the day is working. I got my crystal ball.
Yeah, I don't think you needed too much to, to see this one. Unfortunately, I like to say that I was, what did Johnny Carson used to call himself? Crescor or whatever?
No, the Amazing Kreskin. Maybe I should go put the Amazing Kreskin hat on. I got one myself in the closet. Yeah. Maybe pull it out a little bit today. Look, it's sad that we have to do this, but it is where we are. You talk about stocks, talking about the markets. You can't talk about the markets without talking about this side of things, right? This is what sets the tone for everything else. And right now, we're not seeing that tone the way that we need to be feel good. Yesterday, I was on Whoop Spaces. I was talking to Kevin Green, from Schwab, and I asked the question: what do people need to see in order to make the changes? What would make them feel better? And no one could answer the question, right? Is it a combination of everything out there that needs to just the malaise has to stop a little bit? Probably, right? You need to see the wars ending. You need to see people feeling better, and it's just not happening, right? And it's getting worse and worse. The administration is not making it better. It's not really helping that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary and the President of the United States, is saying, I don't care about the stock market.
Right.
The greatest wealth measure in the world is the U.S. stock market, right? Everybody invests in the stock market, even international, right? Which we're seeing right now. International money flowing in the United States is what's holding this up. People think all the time, say, well, it's U.S. money. No, it's not. Right now, it's international money is holding us up, especially money coming in from Japan. And right now, I'm going to tell you right now, if they start to get nervous about the markets and they pull money out, then watch out below. But I don't think that's happening right now. So I think we're okay right now, and I think that's good. And that's why I'm not too worried about this. This a little bit of profit taking, a little bit. People are just scared. They need money. You said that just earlier, Howard, and I'm okay with that. I still am bullish. I'm not bearish yet. And if I get bearish, then the world's going to end, right? I mean, the market only goes one direction. Bottom left, top right, your chart. It's just a matter of how much you scroll out for your timing, right? No matter how, if you're a long-term investor, this is a buying opportunity. I'm not telling you to buy or sell, but I like these areas right here. 81,000 now on Bitcoin. I like this, right?
Yeah, there's value to be. What I would say is there's value to be found in the market today, and I wouldn't search much further than the Mag 7, the major leaders in things, the JP Morgans of the world, the FedExes of the world, people that lead their categories are going to continue to lead in the future. And right now their price per earnings are down at lows that we haven't seen in sometimes 10 years. Why would you not want it now? Like I said, the stock market is the only thing I know where people only want to buy it when it's up, not when it's down.
It's interesting. I'm seeing a lot of people just being really just unhappy right now, right? And the malaise in the markets, the malaise in people themselves, it's really at a high right now. And that I don't know. I hate to say it this way, but Jim Cramer had a saying: "Stop trading." Right? If trading doesn't fit you, don't do it. Right? I mean. Right. 83% of people that are traders are losing money, right? And we know that. That's why Quasar Markets is here. Yep. I'm not telling you to trade. I'm telling you not to trade. This is not your time if you're losing money, right? If you don't know what you're doing, get out. I don't want you to lose money. There are companies
if you're a perma bull, you can't play this market. We have so many friends that we're watching that every day keep putting how red they are in our things, and I know why it is, because they're perma bulls. And they FOMO into these pumps, and they don't put stop losses in place to get themselves the right way, and they don't look at the resistance we're coming up on some of these, because the same way you can say charts don't matter, but they do. It's just a matter of how the news affects it. Do we fall to the next level or rise to the next level? But those levels
Charts
matter.
100% matter. Anybody says they don't matter, don't matter. But I will tell people stop pearl clutching their charts.
Right.
Because your chart,
like you
telling you
said,
what's
it's
going
not there.
on.
It's to find those points of where you're going to hit resistance. If it's, you know, as we've pointed out so many times, look to the left. If there's price action to the left at an area, there's going to be price action again in that area. Price action doesn't lie.
Right. But the problem right now is not the ups and the downs of the markets, right? The problem right now is the oversized ups and downs of the market being exacerbated by zero DTEs, which are not real numbers, right? Because people are, it's like the North Korean hacker 50xing something of money he doesn't even have, right?
Right.
That's what's happening right now. And when you see that,
Whoa, I just lost BigBeat. What's going on? Sorry, I just lost Steve there. I hope everything is okay. It is actually 10 o'clock, so we'll be signing off here in a second. Let me take you one last time through the charts here. Tell you what we have before we end here. Tick is minus 265. Advanced decline has unfortunately fallen to about 3,500, so lows of the day here on that. The Qs are down 1.91%, and SPY down 1.18%. Dow Jones down 57 basis points, and the RUT down just over 1%. Bitcoin struggling to hold the 81,000 handle so far. And last but not least, gold set a new all-time high and continues to move up on the spot market here at 30.30. So everybody stay on, keep your head on a swivel today. I do think that we'll start to see some common sense take over here, hopefully, and start to melt up a little bit. Bitcoin has broken out of that ascending triangle that we were looking for an upside move out of. So that puts me somewhat bearish again on Bitcoin. And I've called for this drop down to the 70s, mid 70s here before we see our next move to the upside. Everybody have a fantastic trade. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. We will be back at 11:30 here with Jeremy Vreeland and the watch list, him and Matthew Tuttle. We also have a lot of great programming for you coming up. Next, we're going to have an episode of Dr. Alan Ellman from the Blue Collar Investor. We filmed a great show yesterday. We're going to have that coming on here at 10:15. So again, everybody have a fantastic day.